این یه نام سرگشاده است برای خانم گلشیفته فراهانی. دیدم که یه چند خطی نوشته بودین تو توییتر که actually let me go to English. This is a letter, open letter to Mrs. Golshifteh Farahani. I saw a few lines that you had written in Twitter, and you were wondering whether dealing with the Chinese is okay or not for Iran. I really don't give a fuck about Islam or Jomhuri Islami, Islamic Republic. I really don't give a fuck about either one. I'm neither a Muslim nor follower of any current leader of Iran. No, don't give a fuck. I'm just a concerned guy who apparently I was born in that shithole, so I don't want it to turn into a worse shithole than it already is. That's it. That's my only concern. I don't want this current shithole as is. I don't want it to get any worse. Iraq was a shithole. Then they were under embargo because the pinkskins could not reach a deal with the guy with the big penis ruling over those people. They were able to reach a deal with the House of Saud. The pinkskins were able to reach a deal with the House of Saud. So, they reached a deal, they agreed on numbers, so they start dealing with each other. Doing business normal. The problem is the price is not right here. Just because those guys who are ruling Iran right now have a high price that the pinkskins don't want to pay that high price, they don't think Iran is worth that high price. They don't want to pay it. They said, no, you bring down your price or we're going to come and kick some ass. This is what the pinkskins are saying. Now, I don't care about kicking some ass. The point is that little cultural heritage that we have over there in fucking that piece of earth over there, that's unique. I'm not even emotionally attached to it. That's just unique on earth that civilization lived. Now, if these pinkskins decide to go in, you've seen what happens in Syria, in Iraq, in wherever they went, wherever the pink skin goes, doesn't give a fuck about the local artifacts. If it doesn't turn into money, it's not important for the pink skin. So this idea that you're telling us that the Chinese they're going to come and rape the land, and they may rape the land. That's, putting it the way you were talking about, using the resources of the land, extracting the resources of the land. Well, what do you think the pinkskins have in mind? They don't want to come over there because of Persian pussy. The pinkskins are not coming over there for Persian pussy. You're not that special. They're coming there for the resources. If they get there, it's for the resources. So the yellow skin is coming for the resources as well. It's just the yellow skin is paying a higher price than the pink skin wants to give. End of story. It's all the question of price. This whole idea of we don't approve of their kind of democracy and they don't give their people freedom. This is bullshit. You know why it's bullshit? The pink skin is saying this. You know why it's bullshit? It's because they have been friends with countries that have given no freedoms to their citizens for the past 100 years. All these little shithole Arab countries that the British and the French decided to create in that whole Arabian Peninsula, all those little shitty Arab squares that the British and the French agreed on drawing on the map, none of them, their citizens have any kind of freedom. But none of the pink skins object. Well, they object. It's like, oh, please get better. That's it. That's their whole objection. They're embargoing a whole fucking country of 80 million, the shithole that I was born in. They're embargoing, the pink skins have embargoed it for the past, what? Of my whole life, and then some. 50 years. For the past 50 years, the pink skin have embargoed our people over there. And this is the alien in me talking. Our people over there have been embargoed. We live like shit because the pink skins has decided that we are not worth that much. We are not worth that much. They should be able to pay a cheap price for that piece of land. But Iranians, of course, the pink skins are right. That piece of land is not worth that much. Why? Because it geographically used to be the most important piece of real estate in the whole planet. Why? Because it was the distance between the Caspian Sea and the Persian Gulf. It was a bottleneck. The bottleneck on the route of the Silk Road, that was the most important piece of real estate on planet Earth, once upon a time. It no longer is. So, since steel ships and steam engines have decided to move, transport goods without actually any use from the land, that little piece of real estate between the Caspian Sea and the Persian Gulf has lost its value. The Iranians don't get it. The Iranians don't get it. They still think they got a big dick. The Iranians still think, no, we have a big penis. We have been here for thousands of years. We are really big. Used to be. Since they invented the steam engines and the steel ships, you're just another shithole that the pink skins think they have to deal with. Agree on a price. The whole issue here is that the pink skins don't want to buy it cheap. They don't think it's worth that much, and it's not. But the people living there, the people in charge over there, think they are still the bottleneck of the world. No, folks, Iran is no longer the bottleneck of the world. Haven't you noticed? It's been a couple of hundred years now. So you're not that important. Now you have to deal, and good thing, at least now you're dealing with the yellow skins. If you somehow agree to bring down the price, it's not worth that much anymore. Even if it has to go overland, goods can transfer north of the Caspian Sea right at this time because of the railroad. The whole idea that the merchants only had to use the southern Silk Road, the whole deal behind that was because the north of Caspian was they couldn't operate because half the year it was frozen, the other half of the year was all mud, so they couldn't trade. They couldn't really have a real good trade routes passing over north of the Caspian Sea between the east and west. So it had to be on the south of Caspian Sea. So the people over there, generation after generation after generation, they saw themselves as the policemen of that land because it was the bottleneck of the Silk Road. It was very important. And both the East and the West were very happy that there was order in this bottleneck. The East and the West wanted peace and quiet in that bottleneck, so they allowed the Iranians, whoever the fuck, be in charge in that bottleneck so they can have this trade route between east and west continue, be normal. It has long passed that point. Even if the Chinese are successful in revitalizing the Silk Road, which is a great thing if it happens, it's worth blood, sweat, and tears. Putting back that Silk Road on the map as a trade route, it's worth blood, sweat, and tears. Silk Road has to happen. And this is the first step that they're taking with the Chinese. I think it's a good thing. And basically, we gotta kiss the Chinese balls that they have sat at the table and pay the price to the Iranians and set the price at this. Okay, we are ready to do this price at this much for these many years. Thank you very much. I think we should kiss their balls. Because now the stage is set. Now the pink skins have to decide how much they want to pay. And because already the money is on the table, the pink skins can't break the table, can't turn over the table. That would be, a really, really pink skin thing to do. They have done so many times. I mean, from Southeast Asia, Vietnam, and Cambodia, all because we don't agree with their system of economy. The word to the Iranians, they're saying because it's a theocracy, we don't agree with their system of governance. Oh yeah? Saudi Arabia has got a system of governance about a couple of 1,000 years out of date, and you're okay with that, my fellow pink skin friends. You're okay with those shitholes that are, system of government. What system of government? There's government is run by the system. In Saudi Arabia, they don't have a system. Arabs don't understand systems. They hire Germans to establish systems for them. And thank you to Elon Musk. That's on his last breath as well. Thank God for that. Arabs are going to go back to their tents. The whole point is this. The Chinese have put some money on the table. They have recognized the opposite side as worth something. They have put some money on the table. They said, okay, here, piece of real estate you got. Here's some money for us to, you use my labor and knowledge, and I use your real estate. Everything is a business transaction, Khanim Farahani. Everything is a business transaction. Land from somebody and a building for a business by somebody else's investment, and the guy who has the land accepts a monthly payment, and the guy who has the business idea makes money from his business, doing business on that land. Now, end of story. The whole idea was that this piece of land should not blow up like Iraq did, like Syria is doing. The war in Syria is the war between the pink skins from the west and the pink skins from the north. And yeah, the Iranians have a say in there, want to have a say in there, because that's, they have blood relatives there. The whole Iran, Iraq, Syria to Lebanon, the whole thing used to be Iran. They all used to be Zoroastrians. Now they're all Shia. But it's the same people. They just change religion. They're all Shiites now. But the point is, they're all somehow related. Iran, Iraq, Syria to Lebanon. They're all related. That's how, these guys are involved. Because, they got some, cousins there. I don't. They do. The point is, because they feel related, they feel somehow responsible for each other. They help each other, they feel responsible for each other. So this whole, and their language, well, Iranians, chose to follow this way. Just like many of the the states which became part of the Soviet Union, had to adapt to speaking Russian as well. And some of them actually their main language became Russian. So the whole point is because, they were successful, the Arabs were successful to, topple a power in this bottleneck. The language changed. But these people are still related. And we have seen that basically Iraq, the half of the stuff of their civilization that was on the ground got blown up. These things belong to the civilization, got blown up. What? By whom? Who the fuck cares by whom? It happened because the order was broken. Because the ruler at that time, Saddam, he thought he had a big penis and he was asking for a big price for that piece of land. Shitty land. Dry, desert, shitty land with some oil under it. He was asking for a big price. The pink skins were not ready to pay that big price. So, okay, no, we're going to take it over. Fuck you. It's a real estate transaction. If the pink skins don't agree to pay a certain price, they don't care about who's ruling you, how they're ruling you. That's why they tolerated the Arab, the kingdoms, the shitty, Stone Age kingdoms of all these Arab states, including Jordan. These kingdoms have been tolerated with zero freedoms for the citizens. The guy from Saudi Arabia invites the journalists in, then he literally liquidates the journalist in somebody else's property. This is tolerable for the pink skins. So the pink skins really are not concerned about who's ruling you. How are they ruling you? Are they conservative? Are they liberal? Are they... they're not concerned about that. It's a real estate transaction. The pink skins wanted to pay a very little price. They didn't think Iran was worth it that much. Now at least the Chinese have put some money on the table. The pink skins now are, now at least they know what is the market. This is the market. End of story. Pay a little higher, a little lower, or whatever it takes. That this is what happened to historical artifacts belonging to the civilizations that were living for hundreds of thousands of years in that part of the world, in Iraq or Syria. All these historical artifacts that couldn't be taken and sold under the table in the pink skin lands. Those that couldn't be taken were blown up. By who cares by which side? When you break the order, when there is no central order anymore, some of it gets stolen, then anarchy takes over. Why anarchy takes over? Why in that part of the world you cannot have a very peaceful transfer of power? Because in that part of the world that we are from, unfortunately in my case, the one with the biggest penis tells the one with the smaller penis what to do. This is how it's understood. And it's not my place to say they're right or they're wrong. No, I didn't like to live under this system. I'm not gonna worship the guy with the bigger penis. But they are comfortable with this kind of system. And the pink skins know this. That's why they tolerated the kingdoms of shitholes in the Arab world. Because they know that this is their system. The guy with the biggest penis becomes the boss, and then every step down you have a little shorter penis until you reach the bottom. This is how they are. It goes back to their history. Why they are like this is because it goes back to their history, and the history that you had to have, there has to be only one leader, and because everybody has to, if the tribe has to be strong, they have to follow one leader, and that, that's how, this collective societies which are collective based and not individual based. Again, we go back to why you left Iran and why I left Iran, because because nobody can be an individual, because those societies that have such long histories, collectives have always been successful, more successful than the individuals. Collectives in those old societies, collectives have always outlasted the individuals. When the collective outlasts individuals, slowly becomes part of the nature, part of the culture, and part of the nature, and part of the mindset that says collective is more important than the individual. So, and if an individual like me is an oddball out, it has to go out. They don't accept individualism there. Oddballs such as you have to leave. But the rest of the motherfuckers over there are fine with each other. They like that collective mentality. Now, why is it that that collective mentality results into, when you have a collective mentality, it becomes like a beehive. In a beehive, you cannot have 2 queens or 3 queens or 5 queens, maybe 12 queens. You cannot have it. You need 1 queen in every beehive. That's why those collective cultures such as Korea, China, Russia, these collective cultures only work when there is 1 queen in the beehive. This is what this whole idea of the pink skin from the West coming and saying, no, freedom, we love freedom, we want to distribute freedom and democracy around the world. This is hogwash. This is bullshit. There is no, we want to distribute freedom and democracy around the world. It just doesn't make sense. Democracy is a form of government. Many cultures who put front the collective, value the collective more than the individual, many of these cultures, that's it, they don't value the individual. They are concerned only with the collective. These cultures, such thing as valuing the individual is not important. So therefore, the whole idea of individual freedom and individual right to choose and individual votes, it just is a non-starter with such cultures. What individual? The wisest people in the tribe make decisions that they think will lead the society in the right direction, and those wise individuals put the idea on the table, talk about amongst them, and then move forward with the idea. This is what those collective cultures are all about. And it's not a bad idea. I mean, this individualism and valuing the individual vote in the pink skin lands has resulted to a lot of, Bush Jr. becoming the chief of the tribe. Mr. Bush Jr. was for almost a decade was in charge of the biggest armory in the world. And he was a C student. And by many accounts, the clown of his class clown. A tribe which puts a frat boy becomes the chief of the tribe, then that tribe is not being run by the great system. whatever system in which the class clown can become a C student, class clown can become the chief of the tribe for a decade, is not a great system. This is just not. The result has said, the result has spoken. Sarkozy, I believe it was Sarkozy that they said, it was in the news that Gaddafi actually sent him some cash donated to his election, and then apparently Sarkozy was the one who gave the green light to Uncle Sam and the NATO, other pink folks, to pinkskins, to move in and remove the guy. Because it was a French colony, they were waiting for the French to give the okay, and Sarkozy gave the okay. Because it was, as a nod, this is a French colony. The pinkskins deal within themselves over me and you, over those areas of the world which are not pinks, which is not a pink-skinned residence. They don't make the British and the French don't get together and make a decision about Australia. They already made that decision about Australia. Pinks go in, the local blacks are eliminated, the pinks declare an independent day. The pinks come over, the Americas eliminate the local reds and declare independent. Yet, what must be said must be said. I'm sorry. I hope I don't. I wish I don't get in trouble with Uncle Sam over this matter that has to come out. But it's what I'm saying is just, it's in the books. It's in the history. So it's just the French and the British have to agree and agree with Uncle Sam on the price that they are willing to pay for that real estate, which is Iran. End of story. Yes, let's let them agree on some kind of fucking price, so the whole thing doesn't have to, so the pinkskins don't have to go in and blow up the whole thing. Because either it's the pinkskins, they have to do business. They're aggressive and they're paranoid, and they have to do business. They can't just sit back and see, other people doing business and them not. That's not possible. That's why Uncle Sam pulled out. Because the Europeans were doing business after the JCPOA. Europeans were in and doing business, but the Iranians were not still, willing to give a hand job to Uncle Sam. And Uncle Sam felt left out, so Uncle Sam pulled out. Literally pulled out. So the whole idea is this. Uncle Sam was not, the corporations of the pinkskins on the Uncle Sam side of the table were not getting their beak wet. Iranians were not dealing with them. Europeans were in, the South Asians were in, the East Asians were in. Uncle Sam didn't get his beak wet. Not Uncle Sam, but the corporations. Coca-Cola or McDonald's was not getting a piece of the action in Iran. That was the whole problem. Because the Iranians are still uncomfortable because of, so many years. Here's the thing, for example, that the misunderstanding that these guys have. Iranians think that if you're in the other guy's home, you shouldn't spy. Well, the pinkskins, this is all they do. The whole idea behind the whole idea behind having an embassy in your other countries is where you can spy on them. That's the whole idea of an embassy. All countries have agreed to have embassies in each other's land and as a base, but in reality it's where they do most of their spying. Well, Iranians really didn't care for that. They didn't understand it. They were very uncomfortable with the whole idea of being spied upon. But the reality is, I mean, many Iranians, if you go to German embassy or the British embassy or the French embassy, or you go to the, I don't know, Mexican embassy in Iran, you will see that, you know, they're spying. They're doing their best to gather information. It's not spying, it's gathering as much information as you can from the local government so you can report it back to your government so your government over there can make the right decisions. That's the whole idea of having an embassy. You can call it spying, you can call it being up to date with as much information as possible so your government back home can make the right decisions on time. But then at what point this embassy becomes sort of like not only a gathering place but also a delivering place? Well, if you're suing a big penis as Uncle Sam does in the world, well, a lot of time these embassies becomes a sort of like a delivery apparatus in the other nations country to deliver certain policies, to force certain policies to take shape in the host government, in the host land, when you run an empire like Uncle Sam does. So yes, these embassies become sort of like the center for gathering information from the host nation, and then a guy, a front man over there to inform the leadership in the host country of what decisions need to be made for Uncle Sam to be happy. What decisions need to be made for Uncle Sam to be happy. That's all they have to say. If the guy in charge of that country is in charge with the blessing of Uncle Sam, then as soon as, the guy in charge with the blessing of Uncle Sam, as soon as he understands what is Uncle Sam's perspective on the matter that has arrived, they will make the right decision that would, not be beneficial to mostly Uncle Sam and hopefully also beneficial to the local shitheads. But the point is this. I think this was a good thing. The Chinese put their money where their mouth is. Are they going to rape first of all, are they going to colonize Iran? No. Chinese don't colonize. Chinese, even when they go to other lands, they keep to themselves. White folks, when they go to other land, the pink skins, when they go to other land, they spread, grab. The Chinese are not the colonizing type. They're very intelligent for that. Colonizing is a messy business, is a bloody business. Pink skins are fine with it. They have done it so many times. They're doing the second, third wave of colonization in the Middle East right now. They've done it. They've colonized Middle East over and over, and anybody got out of line, they colonize it again. The Chinese are too smart for that. They don't want to get their hands bloody. Because that's why you don't see Chinese colonies in how many thousands of years. Uncle Sam is 250 years old. Over there, we have hundreds of thousands of years since the Homo sapiens left Africa, hundreds of thousands of years before that, the Neanderthals left Africa, and hundreds of thousands of years before that, the Homo erectus left Africa. And they all, after they left Africa, they all came into the Middle East, moved far east, and moved north to Europe. And mixed and matched and whatever fuck they did. But the point is, those guys have been there for far longer. The Chinese know the Iranians far longer than NATO knows the Middle East. So have you noticed that the pink skins have already colonized Africa and Middle East 2-3 times during the past couple of 100 years. But have you noticed any Chinese colonies in Egypt or South Africa? Have you seen any Chinese colonies? No, they're too smart for that. They just don't want to. It's a messy business, imperialism. They have kept order within their own land where their Orientals are living. But they didn't take over Hawaii. They didn't take over Caribbeans and Mexico and South America, North America. The Chinese didn't do that. After the Pinkskins went in and did all the bloody business of invading and eliminating and subjugating, after all this business was done, yeah, some Chinese went in because now we can sit and like intelligent creatures do business. But the whole idea of taking over, with that bloody business of takeovers and elimination, the Orientals were never for that. Japanese didn't have any choice. Japanese were out of raw resources. But the whole idea is, for us at least, there were never any Chinese or any Oriental colonies in the Middle East. There were no Oriental colonies in Africa. There were no Oriental colonies in Europe. The Chinese or the Orientals, none of them went to Europe and said, oh, we want this land. The British and the French went into other side of the world and took over a couple of pieces of land on the other side of the Orientals to control or over land on the other side of the planet. The British still insist that they own the Falkland, the Malvinas. The British still profess that they own it because we got a big penis. So, yeah, and regarding nuclear weapons, I think the Iranians should have nuclear weapons. Why? Because why 80 million British should be protected with nuclear weapons, but 80 million Iranians shouldn't be protected with nuclear weapons? Nuclear weapons are defensive in nature. They're not offensive because, first of all, nobody would use a nuclear weapon against a country that doesn't have a nuclear weapon. Nobody would do that because, specifically because countries who don't have a nuclear weapon will not attack a country that has nuclear weapons. So, if a country has nuclear weapons, first of all, is immune from being attacked by countries that don't have nuclear weapons, because then, that doesn't happen. And nuclear weapon protects a country against other countries that have nuclear weapons, because just for the fact that those countries say, okay, we're not going to attack them because if it becomes they have nuclear weapons, then we're both gonna die. So nuclear weapons is defensive in nature. It protects you against being attacked by the countries that don't have nuclear weapons because they're not crazy. Nobody's crazy. And it protects you against the countries that even have nuclear weapons because they're not crazy. So nuclear weapons is a good option for the Iranians. Just because the French can protect 80 million with 800 nuclear missiles, the British are protecting 80 million British blood. They're protecting 80 million British bloodlines with nuclear weapons. The French are protecting 80 million bloodlines and, kingdoms and little dukedoms Iranians, because they also have 80 million population, and they also are sitting on a very historical piece of land with a lot of historical artifacts that we want to protect. Because Iranians should be able to protect those artifacts with nuclear weapons. So yes, Iran should have nuclear weapons. But the point is this: the British do not care if your land becomes disorderly. The British created Afghanistan. Afghanistan doesn't have a need to exist. All other neighboring countries should take a piece of Afghanistan, because a lot of the culturally and language wise, Afghanistan is a corner of the world, top of the world, sitting on a bunch of mountains, difficult to control, difficult to access. It's a burden it's a landlocked nation. Being landlocked is like being deaf and blind. Afghanistan should not exist. Other countries should take the burden of dividing Afghanistan. But the British created Afghanistan and they know that Afghanistan will never have peace and stability, because it can never have a central government, because it's too sparsely populated. The population of Afghanistan has been around 30-40 million people. They have always been sparsely populated and difficult terrain. It makes it impossible to control. Impossible. And the British knew this, so they made it, and they knew it's going to be disorderly, and the reason for that is the disorder in Afghanistan allows them to come back over and over and over under the pretext of bringing order. Afghanistan, that area on earth that you call Afghanistan, that the British have drawn the line around and says this is Afghanistan, that piece of land, the British made it like that so it would be disorderly, because they knew nobody could bring order on top of mountains. That is divided between so many ethnicities. They knew it's not going to, bring order. They made there so it would be disorderly forever, so the British can have open access to it whenever they want, under the pretext of bringing order. That was the British plan for Afghanistan. And when when the Russians tried to go in and bring order, the British said nope. Through CIA, and through the Arabs, they whipped up the local shitheads to fight back the order that the Russians were trying to bring in. So here's the thing, folks. The pink skins, Golshifteh Farahani, I know you sleep with them, I sleep with them, but the pink skins are extremely aggressive and very paranoid. So they have difficulty with each other. World War I, World War II, and all these colonizing business of colonizing the rest of the land and the rest of the people, ethnicities. All of this business is a pink skin thing. They're very aggressive, extremely aggressive. And the Chinese, they're coming out of their shell. You have to pull Chinese out of their shell. I know, I dealt with Chinese, I worked with the Chinese for a while. You have to pull them out of their shell. They don't want to go colonize anybody. They don't want to, do any bloodshedding. If they do, they do if they have to. But this whole idea of, going and, reinventing, and no, this is not a Chinese trait. Chinese are very hardworking, very smart, and that smartness means you don't want bloodshed. You don't want, you don't want disorder. And the whole idea of colonizing is going and enforcing a disorder, so then you can bring your own order. That's how colonizing works. There is an order, you go and bring disorder, and then you bring your own order. That's what they're doing, what they have done with Syria, with Iraq, with Iran, with old colonies, new colonies. The pink skins don't like the order. They can't, agree on the price with the current guy in charge with a big penis. They can't agree on the price for the real estate that he's in charge of, so they basically start a war. A war is a real estate transaction gone sideways. We don't want the real estate transaction between the pink skins and those assholes who are in charge of that piece of land, Iran, right now. We don't want this real estate deal to go sideways. We want these guys to agree on the price, so that real estate would not have to blow up with shock and awe. The pink skins. Anyway, yeah, let's thank you to the Chinese. You started the negotiation. You put money on the table, and hopefully pink skins will, decide that it's a good idea. Maybe those Buddhist statues in Afghanistan didn't have to blow up. But why would the pink skin care? I mean, because those are too big, they couldn't take it out and sell it on the Christie's auction. So those statues had to stay in Afghanistan, and because the British don't care whether there is order here or not. The Russians were bringing some kind of order, but the British were not. Neither the British nor Uncle Sam was not in it. And their heart was not in it. They didn't care for the kind of order that the Russians would bring. So they were okay with the disorder. As long as the Russians are not bringing order, we are okay with disorder. Now we need a base in that area, so now we are going to go in and bring order ourselves again. So yeah, you got to be smart with the pink skin. Khanum Farahani. These guys are extremely aggressive and paranoid. There are a lot of historical artifacts and historical things that we want to keep in one piece, whatever remain of it in that area of planet Earth. Imagine 1,000,000 years from now, you want to 100 years, 1,000 years from now, you want to say, that shithole over there, yeah, it's still it's still like that. It hasn't gone worse. It hasn't blown up.